What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so now that Game 1 of the NBA Finals has completed and Denver wins Game 1 rather easily, even though it was a 10-point margin, even though they were outscored 30-20 in the fourth quarter, you still just really had no... You just felt like Denver was still in control of this game. And that Miami really didn't have a real shot at winning. Nikola Jokic, another triple-double. I think it's the ninth of this postseason, extending his own playoff record. Jimmy Butler was completely missing in this game. I'm really starting to falter with Jimmy Butler. Ever since that Milwaukee series, he's become increasingly more inconsistent. And outside of that Milwaukee series, where he averaged 38 points a game nearly, 60% shooting, 44% from three-point range, since that series, from the Knicks on, he's been averaging 23.8 points, 42% shooting, 28% from downtown. So he really has not been a marquee player by the numbers since then, though he has had some significant games and some timely buckets since then. Now, of course, there's this tendency now that Denver's 3 wins away from a championship, to rank Jokic historically. And Chris Broussard of Fox Sports said that if they win the championship, Nikola Jokic will be better than Charles Barkley, better than Dirk Nowitzki, better than Kevin Durant, better than a couple other guys he mentioned. And he also said that Dirk Nowitzki is overrated. Now that is bullshit. That's bullshit. Now you're being a prisoner of the moment. Because you said something about Dirk wasn't a good rebounder. Dirk wasn't a good defender. Well, I mean, Dirk was more perimeter orientated. Okay? So I didn't expect, especially in the era that he played in, I didn't expect him to necessarily rack up Moses Malone-like rebounding totals. And a lot of these guys are overrated rebounding-wise anyway, because a lot of these guys are padding their rebound totals via defensive boards. They're not really battling for rebounds, on the offensive boards like Moses Malone or Dennis Rodman or Jason Williams. They're not doing it like that. So a lot of times these rebound numbers are overrated anyway. These are the facts about Dirk Nowitzki. During the regular season for his career, Dirk averaged about 20 points per game and about 7.5 rebounds per game, right? But during the postseason, he averaged 25 and 10. 25 and 10. So you go from a little over 20 points and 7.5 rebounds to 25 and 10, which means that he greatly increased his game during the postseason. I mean, that's what we look for, right? That's what we look for guys to the true superstars. They raise their level of play when it matters the most. So Dirk was crashing the boards and doing all these extra things during the postseason, because that's what superstars are supposed to do, right? Now, they're talking about defense. He wasn't a good defender. Well, neither is Jokic. So what are you going to penalize Dirk but not Jokic? Get out of here with that. And Jokic is a center. Dirk was a power forward. Centers are supposed to be rim protectors. They're supposed to be shot blockers to a certain extent, and Jokic, despite his size, was not that. And their games are different. Dirk was more of a face-up player. Jokic has that aspect in his game, but Jokic has more traditional aspects to his game. So to sit up there and penalize Dirk for not being a great shot blocker is stupid, because that really wasn't his game. He had the Tyson Chandlers and all those other somewhat generic centers that they've had in the past to fill that role. All right? Dirk was a revolutionary player in the fact that he was the first guy that was 7 feet tall that had a real perimeter game. Yes, we had players in the past like a Bill Laimbeer, a Derek Coleman, and even a Charles Barkley, the Terry Mills, who could from time to time get hot and hit from outside. Spot up threes, catch and shoot situations. But that was the exception rather than the rule. Dirk helped to usher in pre-analytics the first guy that was a consistent threat from outside. Dirk scored 31,560 points in his career. Now, if I'm correct, there's only 5 guys who scored more points than Dirk in their careers. LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. That's it. He scored more points professionally than even Wilt, Dr. J, Shaq, Moses Malone, Carmelo Anthony. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at his playoff numbers. Dirk led the 2004 playoffs in scoring. Dirk! 26.6 points, 11.8 rebounds. Matter of fact, between 2001 and 2008, this so-called poor rebounder in the postseason, in an era that didn't have the spacing that they have today now, 25.6 points, 11.5 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and this is a guy that didn't have the basketball in his hand a lot, outside of scoring opportunities, right? Well, I shouldn't say he didn't have the basketball in his hands a lot. He didn't have the basketball in his hands all the time. 1.3 steals, 1.1 blocks, 45% shooting from the floor, 39% from 3, 87% from the foul line, and got to the line 9 times a game. And led the 2004 playoffs in scoring. And let's not act like Dirk didn't have one of the most unstoppable shots in the history of the NBA. That one-legged fall-away, high-arching fall-away jumper that was pretty much unblockable. Then we got to remember that he didn't have the greatest team around him. The year that they won 67 games and he won league MVP, yes, it was a shame and embarrassing that they were beaten in the first round by the We Believe Warriors team. But if you look at the 2007 Mavericks, which I'm going to do right now, it wasn't like Dirk had a great team around him. This all-time team. Let's see. It was Dirk Nowitzki, then Josh Howard, Josh Howard was an all-star that season, but no other year of his career. Jason Terry, Jason Terry was never an all-star. So these are 2 dudes that aren't going to the Hall of Fame. Then he had Devin Harris. Devin Harris was an all-star in 2009, but not that year, and he's never going to go to the Hall of Fame. Eric Dampier, I believe Dan Pierre was a All-Star 1 year. No, never an All-Star. Jerry Stackhouse, but he was coming off the bench. A 2-time All-Star. And those was his heyday with the Pistons. This was years away from that. Devin George, Desana Diop, Greg Buckner, Anthony Johnson, Austin Crocier, 44-year-old Kevin Willis, Maurice Ager, Pops Monster Boom, so whatever the fuck his name is, J.J. Barrera, DJ Banga. That's his team. Even when he won a championship, he didn't have the greatest team around him. Now let's compare who Jokic and the Nuggets have beaten compared to that championship run that the Mavericks had. In the first round, the Nuggets beat a Timberwolves team that I did think could possibly beat the Nuggets, but I also knew there was a serious bust potential with that Timberwolves team, which there was, because they only won one goddamn game. In the next round, they played a Phoenix Suns team that did have some high octane offense from two guys, Devin Booker and KD, but their bench was pretty fucking, light. Their bench was pretty depleted, and other than the scoring punch of those two guys, for the most part, they were limited. They beat them in 6, I think. Then they beat the Lakers, or the Fakers. And now they're going to beat an AC Miami Heat team, probably. Comparing that to the Mavericks in 2011, they beat a 48-win Portland Trailblazers team that boasted a prime LaMarcus Aldridge and Brandon Roy. Then in the next round, they swept the defending NBA champion Lakers. Then the next round, they beat a Thunder team in the conference finals that boasts 3 future Hall of Famers and James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant. And then in the finals, they beat a super team in the Heatles. So you tell me who had the more impressive run, ladies and gentlemen. And last but not least, I've noticed a lot of people are making these historical proclamations about Jokic, right? But I remember 2 years ago when I was saying that I think Giannis could possibly be top 20-25. That was absurd. But why is that? Because if Jokic wins a championship, that gives him exactly 2 MVPs and a championship, and probably a Finals MVP, right? Giannis, on the other hand, at the time, had 2 league MVPs, a championship, a Finals MVP, perhaps the greatest closeout performance in the history of the NBA, and a Defensive Player of the Year award. But yet it was somehow ridiculous for me to say that he was top 25 or top 30. So you tell me what the difference is. I'm trying to figure out what the difference is. And if you're talking about injuries, they beat this team. Well, okay. They beat a Phoenix Suns team without Chris Paul, even though I know he's faded. They're going to beat an AC team that still doesn't have one of his gunners and Tyler Hero, and without Victor Oladipo. So, come on. But anyway, that's all I got to say in this particular video, man. Jokic is an all-time great, but let's not disrespect Dirk Nowitzki. Let's not do that.